there? Oh, you're on mute.
Okay.
Oh, there you are. Hi.
How are you? You have a kitty.
I do. She's wants love right now, but I'm working. How are you doing? I can't see you. I don't know if you wanted to be seen.
Oops.
I just see your name.
Can you see me now?
I can.
Okay, good. I'm well, thank you.
Good.
And
Thought I'd
so,
just
if you cut out during a part of the meeting, Michelle, I just hit the little X to end it. Is that what I do?
Yep. At the end, you just push the red X and it will end the meeting. And
Have you been
already
have you been going to the office every day or working remotely?
mostly in the office. We have to use up our vacation time by July 1. So I took a vacation day yesterday and today, and then I'm going to take a couple more next week. But I wanted to make sure your meeting goes okay.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know if you heard our co-chair Bill Dunbar asked me and says, "Why can't we meet in the town hall in the auditorium if we stay size?" No, no can do.
Nope, not yet.
Yeah, he's not comfortable with this.
I know. Who is it? There's another commission, and they just hate meeting virtually. But most people are doing just fine. Yep. Just have to be patient.
Well, it's maybe it'll help the town pick up real estate and things, because I think a lot of people are saying, "Hey, this is not bad. I can do it from home, and I don't need to be downtown somewhere."
I know, and it is kind of nice to meet virtually for people who work during the day and can only meet in the evening.
Hmm.
People who have kids, it's actually may make it more accessible to people to actually join our boards and commissions. So I don't know. We'll have to see what the FOI commission does, because the only reason we can meet virtually right now is because the governor is allowing it, but previous you couldn't have a virtual meeting. So I don't know. Maybe that's something they'll change moving forward.
Do you know if did Tim get any applications for new members for open space?
No, we haven't.
Okay, so we have two prospective members that will be attending today, Andrea and Fred Fenton. And I thought Amanda said Andrea had sent in an application.
They usually come to me, and I have not seen them yet.
That's why I asked, because I thought that's exactly what the protocol would have been.
Yep. It's pretty simple. We have a form on our website, so the person just fills that in and then emails it over. Oops, are you still there?
Yeah.
Okay, I hit something on my keyboard and it made a weird noise. All right, there we go.
You can probably see over my shoulder our older cat that passed away.
Oh yes.
We had him for 18 years, and he ended up passing away from cancer. But one of Kathy's friends was a pet artist, and she did the portrait for us.
18 years. Wow, that's a good long life. That's amazing.
He was a fighter. He ended up coming in one day limping badly, and we didn't know what was wrong. It turns out one of his front legs just shattered, and
Oh.
he had multiple myeloma, which affected that leg. So we had to amputate that leg, and he ended up lasting for almost 2 years after that, with going through all kinds of treatments.
Oh my gosh. That's incredible.
the Cisco program automatically, are you looking at a text?
What?
Were you looking at a text?
Oh, yeah, I was reading an email on my phone.
Now the Cisco program automatically records this for posting, and so if you cut away, it's still going to be recording.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep, it should. Where are your people? I guess they're just punctual, you know. I am always early for stuff.
Here's Amanda. Amanda?
How are you?
Oh, good morning.
Good morning.
Amanda, your connection isn't the greatest.
You're breaking up on your connection a bit.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay. I think there's a little dip.
How have you been, Amanda? I haven't talked to you in about a week.
Well, it's been very busy still, but I've been relaxing. I did a triathlon on Saturday. All of McCulloch and Lay and back, and then in the morning, and then I went kayaking with James and Eileen. Got caught in the rainstorm, and we ordered and a few cocktails celebrating McCulloch. A couple of glasses of wine. So how's your week been?
Good. We opened our pool yesterday, and it looked like the creature from the swamp was going to come up out of it. It was so
Really? Well, I have to admit, I've been a little busy doing billable hours so I can have a little change in my pocket. So I didn't read your draft, Greg. I just been cleaning up my office and getting caught up, and my father's having some issues right now, so I've been running.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So.
Amanda, I wanted to let me mention a quick issue before everybody logs on about the land steward report. Technically, we have 3 stewards now. So I don't know that we need to have Wayne and Jim, obviously, but maybe you could talk about what they're up to.
I thought I would I'm looking for the Peter's report when I bring everybody up to date with McCulloch, and then when I have the budget.
Hey, Gary?
I have a lot of expenses. Hello, Gary.
You look like you're in Hawaii. You look good.
Yes, I've asked Jim and Wayne, but
do you want to mention anything on the web that they're the stewards for McCulloch, or because we have kind of Peter as a contact, so if someone has a McCulloch issue now that it's open to the public, they'll probably contact Peter, and I guess then he can go through you or whatever.
Well,
you don't need to answer, just think about it.
Well, but I don't think they would want to be called. So,
right. Okay.
So we might have to.
So maybe just work out with Peter some type of means of communication.
Right. I think that would be a good idea. I'll put that down. So, also wanted, let's see.
Gary, did you say you have family in South Carolina? Was it a grandson or nephew? Or?
A son family.
Yeah, how are things down there? I heard that they're one of the states that are kind of ticking up.
It may be. When I was down there, they basically thought the whole thing was a hoax.
Hi, Andrea.
Good morning. How are you?
Good.
Hi, Andrea.
Good morning. Kudos on the other day. That was phenomenal.
On what?
The trail day.
Oh, National Trails Day. Did you walk McCullough that day?
Yes, I sent you a photo of us with some friends.
I didn't get that.
Oh, I'll resend it.
Okay, great. That'd be awesome.
Because when we came out onto Flat Rock, we saw your car.
Oh, I did see. Oh, I do remember someone sending. I got a lot of emails. I have to tell you. The man that Bill Rule, who is co-chair of Connecticut Hiking Alliance and removed our fence for us in the fall, did a work party. He did McCulloch and Lay, and he sent me a picture of the rookery up there. It says there's 9 nests, and all of the nests are sealed. So that was kind of neat. But I did. I apologize. I don't remember seeing the picture, but I remember the comment. I saw your car. So.
Oh, I'll resend the picture.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Is Fred joining us this morning?
I'm not sure. He's in and out doing a project, but I'll try to catch him.
Okay, good, good. And I'm carrying the last of the plants this weekend, so I don't know if people know Andrea's daughter, and I'm sorry I forgot her name, is running a car cleaning service at a very reasonable rate. So if anyone needs their car cleaned.
Thank you.
It looks like she does a very thorough job. I saw her cleaning a car over the Basses the other day, Andrea.
Oh yes, they because today is Emma's graduation, and so yeah, she did the vacuum inside and out, Armor All, and the outside.
Nice.
Hi, Peter.
Hi, good morning.
Hey, Peter. How are you? So
Good.
hopefully we have Evan will be joining us by phone. I know.
Right.
Just as well because his email's been hacked twice now.
I'll be right back.
Gary, I like your Hawaiian shirt. Very festive.
Thank you. It's like 20 years old, but I still love it.
Yes,
Those are the best
it's
ones.
a timeless piece.
They never go out of style, Gary.
Only me.
You just improved.
How you like that? How you like the haircut I got from my granddaughter in South Carolina?
Nice. Nice.
Yeah. Best haircut I've had in a long time, years, I think.
So you go all the way to South Carolina for a haircut?
Yeah.
Woo.
I gave her $100 tip. That was good for her anyway. Huh?
Ooh-wee.
Man. Nice grandfather.
Yeah, she got to cut about 10 people's hair.
Is everything open down there?
Everything was open. I mean, the grocery stores, you had to wear a mask. The restaurants, out of 4 restaurants, 3 of them, the workers were wearing a mask, but nobody else. They did separate the tables a little bit. One restaurant, nobody wore a mask.
That's how it is in North Carolina. We were there visiting our son who recently graduated, and it was just a shock.
Yeah. And in a gym, Anytime Fitness was open. The only thing they had in there was clean the equipment before you use it and after. No separation, no mask required, or anything like that.
Well, I got my hair cut this week in Hartford, and my barber, who I've been going to for 40 years, was really excited to see me because he said that he's buying a house in Old Lyme on Miami Beach.
No, you told me that. I got the message. The reason I was calling it, when do you get through cleaning those places in your life?
Okay, thanks.
Fred?
So do you have to be there for any reason?
I'm on the meeting. Are you going to join? Yeah. All right, so you want to pull it?
I didn't know there was a reason. I just, you don't have to be in the life.
Morning, Evan.
Because I wanted, if you were, I was going to have you look at the house. Wonderful. What about Monday? Cleanup.
Here, Bruce. Is Evan with us?
I see Evan, it looks like he's,
So I'm going to sit on the couch then, Fred.
hi Evan, can you hear us now?
Andrea, is this the couple front?
Pardon me?
Is this the couple front?
Yes,
Two, your
I am
husband and
moving
wife.
over because Fred is going to join us.
Okay, I want some social distancing between you two. Hi, Fred.
Hi Fred.
Hello, everybody.
So I think we have a few more
Roger.
members still left. Is Bill on?
Hi, Amanda.
Hey, Evan,
Andrea.
how are you?
Good morning.
Hi,
Evan.
Bruce is on.
Evan, can you hear us?
Good morning, everyone.
Good.
Are you joining us by phone? You're by phone, correct, Evan?
Yes, I'm on my phone.
Okay, and Dunbar is supposed to join us. I don't see.
And go to this.
If somebody needs to mute themselves, we're getting feedback. There we go. Whoever just muted themselves, that was it.
I think it was Sarah.
Okay.
That was me because I had it on my phone and I just logged onto my computer.
Oh, okay. Yep.
I'm just waiting for Bill to start the meeting, and I don't see Bruce.
I'm on.
Oh,
Bruce is
okay,
there.
Thank you, Bruce. Okay, thank you, Bruce.
I don't see Peter Norris either, Amanda.
Oh.
I don't either.
So this is the agenda.
I think that I know Bill was going to attend. He was calling in.
Great put together. I don't know where the mute is on this.
Just give Bill a minute or two. Someone's coming from under the seat. Well, it's 9:07. Do you want me to go ahead and start and wait for Bill to come in, or what would you like to wait? What would you like to do, people?
Amanda, I've got a tank removal at a house in Lyme at 10:30, so I've got, or 11, so I've got to be out of here, out of the meeting by 10:30. Things have just gone, as you may recognize, things are getting a little nuts out there.
Oh, yeah. Things are nuts everywhere. Okay, I will go ahead and start, and hopefully Bill will join us. So I'm going to open the meeting at 9:08 a.m. And I would Fred and Andrea
Fred,
Fenton,
you need to be here.
who are interested in joining our board. Fred just disappeared, but he'll be back in. And so I thought I'd let them just open up and tell the board a little bit about yourselves, if you could, please.
Sure. Both Fred and I had been involved with the Oline Land Trust in different capacities. He is more of a formal board member with our son Ethan, and myself more as a weed whacker, upper trail person. Last year we were in New Zealand for a year and got involved with a lot of the Kiwi saving programs, Arboretum, Eco Warrior activities. And so my goal upon returning was to get reacquainted and involved with the land trusts and open space here in Connecticut, in Lyme. And I was particularly excited to learn about McCullough Farms land. And so started, I reached out to Amanda and attended a couple of meetings to see what I could do to get involved. And so now I'm interested in doing this on a more regular, formal basis, I guess.
Good.
That's great.
Yeah.
I have to say, Fred and Andrew have helped me out several clearings, and we've walked McCulloch, both enthusiastic, thankfully hands-on people. So when I look at them, I say, we're going to clear this meadow. They don't think I'm crazy. So it's been very.
Michelle, are you still there?
Yep, I'm here.
Have you, Fred and Andrea, have you actually applied, or because Michelle's the one that would kind of shepherd your application through the process?
I emailed an application in for myself. I don't know if Fred followed up on one as well.
Do you remember who you emailed it to?
I think it was to you at Connecticut at the local Olyme address.
I didn't get it. Do you mind resending it to me?
Not at all.
Okay. My email is selectmans.office@oldlyme-ct.gov.
Selectman's office.
Yep. At oldlyme-ct.gov. Gov.
And then Michelle will, after I reviewed it, it will get on the selectmen's agenda and will be approved.
Yep.
So you might want to see if Fred can do his, so they can do it all at once.
Sure.
And you might tell the selectmen that the open space board waits eagerly the approval of Fred and Andrea for our board.
Very good.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
I think they would be coming on as alternates, but as the board shifts, they would be full members.
That's fine.
All right. Be safe.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Do I have
Here, Amanda.
Oh,
It's
okay,
Bill.
Oh, good. Oh, Bill, great. We just introduced Andrea and Fred, and we're
Okay.
on to, if you want to start with number 2, Bill, that'd be great.
Okay, approval of the minutes of May 8th, 2020.
I'll move to approve the minutes. They were very good. I don't know how you're able to do it, Sarah, over this new technology.
Any discussion?
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Greg?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, carried.
Okay.
The next item is the land steward report.
I assume Norris is not on the webcam.
He just sent an email. He has the wrong number, so I'm going to send him the correct phone number.
Okay, well, why don't we, if it's all right, skip him to number 4 and come back to him? Is that okay with everybody?
Yes, let's.
Okay.
All right, let's go to existing business. First item is budget review and invoice payments.
Okay, that be me. So we have, as you all may know, the end of the fiscal year is June 30th. And in the past, we've had carryovers, and they really do not encourage it, but not to worry, I've spent all the money. So I did a lot. I'm going to review it with you. I purchased locks from Laysville so we can chain up our barways, and I bought 6 locks, all keyed the same. So we'll have a copy. The emergency responders, the land stewards will have copies. That was $64. I spent $72 for the coyote signs. I've just finished receiving all of the invoices for the startup of McCulloch. Now, Wayne Abrahamson, our land steward, worked from 11/7 through 5/4, and his bill is $450. For the parking lot, Jim Mildren, the silt fence, the parking, the grading, all of that, his bill was $2,525. And I'm going to tell you, he spent a lot more time. He knocked off $1,000 on that. Then the gate fence thing was $1,010. We ordered new signs, and they have a little scan embedded in them. We got new tick signs. We got motorized signs. We had a number of signs. That was and the Rooks Meadow signs. That was $1,136. I had Lisa Nicolai, who's always done our trails. She did the McCulloch trail maps in the embedding. Her charge for that was $260. And then she never billed us for the Champlain South maps that she did. She 2 hours, $40 an hour. So her total bill is $340. So that whole total comes to $5,596.87. Now, currently, we have $5,060, but we're getting towards the end of the year, so I can push one or two things over into the next budget period. We still have to be billed Wayne and Wayne's work from May 14th on, putting up the signs, the post, etc. We still need a barway at Flat Rock, which is Jim estimates at $300. And when courts approve the gravel and we get that, that will be $425. And Peter Doris and I went on Monday. We spent about 3 hours going to all of the open space, the kiosks, the signs. And I'd like your approval to do one of our new metal signs that we have with the scan embedded in it for Champlain North. And that would be 1 hour of time for Lisa at $40. And I think the signs are like $40 each. And I think 2 signs. I have to kind of double check. So most of these bills are under 500, and I don't need the approval, but I thought that we should approve all of these if you, so that we can pay the bills. In March, I asked for $5,000 for a capital improvement to do the McCulloch parking lot, and I think I'll have some. I can either shoot Jim's bill into July and pay it that way, but I'm going to have a meeting with the director of finance. See how she wants to handle it.
Amanda, this is Evan, and they're just in anticipation of Peter's report, Peter Norris's report about the brook and wetland crossings. I had some logs, black locust logs cut, and I'm donating them to the crossings. I donated some to the land trust, but I have some left over. So if we can get, they're in 8-foot lengths, and they can be cut into maybe 4-foot posts and set in the wet soil, and not have chemicals going into the wetland.
Okay. And thank you for the donation. Where were you going to put these, on Ames?
Yeah, there. Peter had, I think, 2 crossings in his stewardship report, and so I figured they would be best put on Ames, and they can be cut, and they still have the bark on them, so they need to be.
Oh, nice.
So, but they're very rot resistant. They're as good as cedar, and they don't leach chemicals into the soil the way pressure treated lumber does.
Okay, I think that's wonderful. Thank you, Evan. For the boards he's using for the entrance off Evergreen, and I don't see that as any problem. And if we can use the boards on the Whippoorwill entrance, but I would like to discuss that Whippoorwill entrance later on in the meeting. But we'll use the boards, and we'll just have to get a volunteer party up to put it in.
Excuse me, Peter Norris, have you joined? Peter?
I don't think he's here.
I did see
He's
his
there.
name
Peter,
briefly.
unmute yourself.
What, Gary?
Peter North.
You're not coming through, Peter.
Any other comments or questions about the budget?
If not, we have a motion.
Yes, this is Evan, and I move that we approve the budget as presented.
This is Gary, I second it.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay. I have to
It's
tell you,
approved.
that budget does not reflect all the volunteer hours and the people that gave. We have been very fortunate in that. The comments coming back on McCullough make it all worthwhile. If you haven't walked it, you should. It's just simply beautiful. I did walk it on Saturday, and I started from the Red Trail on Flat Rock, walked the Red, went over to Lay, walked the Green, came through the Green. There was a couple sitting on the bench on Rook's Meadow. So I went to the kiosks. I came back. Wayne got up at 6 o'clock in the morning to mow a path through the meadow. That's how dedicated he is. And I said, I'm walking. There's a young couple there. The woman is her head straight ahead looking at the pond. The guy's laying so many lines on her. I said, well, I'm not going to worry about the parking, but we may have to monitor the bench. So, but everybody has come back and said how beautiful it is. So,
We need a critter cam at the bench.
Yeah.
So,
Already,
well, I'm going to slide into the McCulloch family open space update. So it's open.
Right.
We have a few more things left to finish. A temporary sign up on the Pfeiffer entrance. We just have to get the posts in the ground. I have cedar posts. Jim's been making cedar posts, which are beautiful. We need to do the barway, and they're going to get done in the next couple of weeks. It's interesting. If you're familiar with the Tree in the Gap parking lot, we made it so when you came in the gate, you would turn to the right and park. And everybody pulls right in front of the kiosk. And it's just so different. So nothing I imagined, but when the gravel gets approved, we may put a sign that says pull, head in or something. But I can't think of anything else on McCullough. It's open, it's going. Anyone have any questions on it?
Yeah, Amanda, it's Evan, and I wondered if you had any inkling of when we might get approval from the court for the, when the gravel would go in.
They have absolutely no idea.
Okay.
I've stopped bugging them. Rich Cody, I talk to Rich all the time. I'm seeing him Monday for, some work I did for him and his legal assistant. And they keep going. And they said, this really does not need to have a hearing. We all approve it. But the courts are in such a disarray right now. It's
okay.
It could be a while. And then technically we're supposed to get town meeting approval of it, but Tim Griswold said, if you get the court approval, bring the gravel in. So,
okay, good.
So, and as soon as we get it, it will. Okay. Any other questions on McCullough?
Peter Norris, are you joined? Peter?
I'm not
I don't think he's there yet.
It said it indicated he had joined.
He's here, but it looks like he's muted.
He's muted.
He's muted.
Peter, if you can hear us, unmute yourself.
Put your cursor on your picture.
Ah,
Peter, you need to mute. Come on.
Bill, do we want to go on to 4C?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, updated kiosks and new signs. Peter Norris and I walked to all the around on this past Monday to all the kiosks and the signs. Give them since we had arranged McCulloch, we went in and rearranged as many of the kiosks that we could. So we put the no motorized vehicle at the bottom of the kiosk. We put the tip signs. We did the bags that showed you how to scan. Made sure everything was done. And like I said, I would two things on Champlain North, because I don't anticipate any changes in that one. I'd like to get the metal sign with the scan. I've been showing more people the QR code. They love it. It's so great. And it pulls up every one of our open spaces. So I'd like to get 2 new signs there. And as I said, that's probably around $100. I think I only have 2, Hillside West and then Wickford. Do you have any other place or trail maps on Champlain North? And put those. And then when we went over to Library Lane, the sign for the open space is buried so far in the woods you can't see it. It's awful. So that place is popping. There are people there all the time. And I would like to have your permission to have Jim Mildren make 2 more cedar posts. We have a number of dead cedar trees, so he cuts on our property and makes them, so it's very reasonable. And move that sign forward. I checked the survey on that trail, and our property line goes right to the street, so it's very easy to find. And I think because cars excuse me, pull straight in, it would be nice to mount the sign like we did with the McCulloch one, so they're up higher so you can see that. And then maybe attach the motorized sign there or not. We'd have to look at it, but I would like your permission to this summer sometime move that sign. I thought we could maybe get some volunteers to help us with that.
I think that's a good idea, Amanda. I thought the same thing, that the sign is kind of lost from the entrance.
Especially now with all the leaves out. You can't, so you pull up there and you see 2 private driveways to the right and the left, you're dead end, and you kind of think, is this it? So it would be very helpful.
I'm wondering whether there was some accommodation to the neighbors not to have the sign right on the cul-de-sac, but I agree, it should be visible from the road.
Right. All those neighbors are gone now. They have new neighbors, so I think it'd be nice. And I did find out, and it will remain anonymous, who cut the trees down on. There were some trees down on that trail. Gary, Greg, you had mentioned that, and someone told me they did that. They volunteered in clearing up those trails, the trees that were down, because they walk that trail a lot. So we have people out. I did do a walk last week with George James. I took him on the Tree in the Gap Trail. And I said that we had land stewards, we had a forest, a tree trimming person. So I said, George, I think next time you see a tree down, please call us. We don't want to hear about you collapsing on the trail, and the ER people had to find you. I said, please let us do this. You know, a great land steward, and let us, work. But he loved the trail. He walks it a lot. He's really fond of it.
Ames Family Open Space.
Okay, so we did have the land stewards report, the Norris's report on putting the boards on and everything. I asked, in anticipation of National Trails Day, I spoke with Ed in Public Works and asked him to, I said, if nothing else, clean up the sign, cut the grass and everything around Ames, because it's right across from McCulloch, and it would look like a stepchild if we didn't have all of them looking nice. And picked up the trail sign. People keep putting up closed trail, open trail, closed trail. It goes back and forth like a yo-yo. I've walked down there myself. We've all seen the pictures of the boards and everything. I've looked at bridges. They did, Bill Dunbar told me about a beaver dam up in Stowe, and I happened to be going up there this weekend, so I Googled it to see. Well, what they did was they rerouted part of the long trail. There's got to be a $50,000 bridge there. It's handicapped access. It's gorgeous. It's simply gorgeous. And then the Connecticut Land Trust Association, Amy Patterson's group, sent around pictures of a bridge. I don't know if you saw that, Evan.
Yeah, I was at the Harwinton Land Trust.
Right. I was thinking we ought to check that one out. That looks like a nice one. But I emailed Joel Stockford. You all may remember he presentation for McCulloch, and he also helped out, did a drone. Evan, you met him on the beavers this winter. And I also emailed Tom Metcalf, the civil engineer who's semi-retired, and said, we need some other sets of eyes on the the Ames open space off of Whippoorwill, because I think, we've all run into the beaver problems. We've had people breaking the beaver dams. We've had the dam on Whippoorwill, which wasn't ours, which I don't know what they've done there, but it's not a problem now, but doesn't mean it won't be in the future. So I thought maybe we should pick a time, do a site walk. I asked Joel Stockton if he could do a drone up there so we could kind of see how it looked from the air. What are our challenges here? I mean, we see the path, but we don't know how much farther it goes. If the water stops, if the water comes, if we build a bridge or something and then it gets washed out. I don't know. I'm just kind of trying to rethink this whole Ames entrance on Whippoorwill. It has a potential for a liability issue. We've talked about protecting and preserving beavers, and are we protecting and preserving them if we're putting trails through beaver dams and beaver ponds? So,
Amanda,
yes.
I don't know if Peter is here, and while we're talking about trails and unsafe conditions and so forth, and I don't know if we'll get to the report in Peter's absence, but I walked the Blue Trail last weekend, and I thought it was in great condition except for where it crossed one stream, and there was what I thought was a really shaky, unsafe bridge. When you step on one part of it, you almost go right into the water. And then there's like
You're heading towards Whippoorwill?
No, this is going kind of parallel to Whippoorwill. This is on the Blue Trail, so it doesn't head towards the parking lot. It kind of circumvents it. Okay. So when you go, so if you were on the Blue Trail, where the Blue Trail and the entrance of Whippoorwill intersect, continue south, and that's where the makeshift bridge is, maybe a couple 100 yards past there. And that's an accident waiting to happen. I think Peter actually sent us some photos of kind of the impromptu construction there.
Is this the one that you're talking about?
I can't see the bottom of the photo. Yes.
Well, this is what I'm talking about. And people keep adding boards, taking boards. The water increases, the water decreases. There was a culvert there that Jim Mildren put in years ago when he kind of did that roadway for the Ames family because they were getting gravel from that area.
I'm not sure if the same one, because I don't recall there being a culvert where I'm talking about.
Well, the area that I'm talking is when you come from Whippoorwill Road, in the
Yeah.
Whippoorwill Road entrance to Ames, and you walk down there. We've all walked there. We met George
Yeah.
James there a year ago.
Yeah. No, this is not that location. This is actually on the Blue Trail, past that location. If you continue through that wet area to the Blue Trail and take a left and go maybe a couple 100 yards, you'd come to the area I'm talking about.
Peter, we talked about maybe getting some boards in, and maybe that needs. But I kind of feel those aren't. Those can be dealt with. This one off of Whippoorwill, where the ponds are, and Evan, you and I walked it several times this past winter, looking at the beaver dams. Right. Off the Blue Trail and then head towards Whippoorwill.
Well, the reason I mentioned it is the day that I was hiking the Blue Trail, we saw two other parties. One that was just coming into Ames from Evergreen, and another party that was also on the trail. So all the only people we saw, I mean, the trails intersect each other. The only people we saw were all on that Blue Trail. So I presume they all kind of went over that bridge. And it's too bad that it's kind of a shaky crossing, because that trail was absolutely gorgeous as the Mount Laurels were really in full bloom down there. It was really a beautiful trail.
Well, we can go out. We can go out with Peter Norris and walk that, and I think that's an easy remedy.
Yeah. I actually had a question on Peter's trail report. I wish he were participating. He mentions issues there, and then at the bottom of it for his May 28th post, he says the Blue Trail's in good shape. And I thought it was, except for that one crossing.
This is Evan, and I want to make an appointment when I get a free moment to go out and maybe walk the trails with Peter and make an inventory of the crossings that are. I think you can barely, calling these boards laid on the ground bridges is, stretching a point. I think we need to start thinking about some real construction and some getting our volunteers and board members to pitch in, and we can get some ideas from the Connecticut Forest and Park Association that handles all the blue trails, the state blue trails in Connecticut, and they have I'm trying to get some designs and material lists and so forth. So I think some of these trail crossings, these brook crossings, really require some substantial work. So that'll, in the next year or two, we can tackle those things.
Well, Evan, how about if you contact Peter Norris and then set up a time and let us know, because I think the more people, the better.
Yeah.
But and I think most of the crossings on Ames are doable. They're not major feats. But I am concerned about the Beaver Dam and it's basically the river you go over off of the Whippoorwill Road. And that's where I think we're either looking at a lot of time, money, and effort, or we close it and say we're protecting and preserving the open space. And I walked Whippoorwill a couple of years ago with Mike Kiernan. This is not a new issue. This has been an issue for.
Oh yeah, it's ongoing.
And so Mike and I walked and looked at all the the land trust property. There was no way to cross that. We've approached the landowners, and they're not willing to sell at a reasonable price. So I think we all should look at this entrance and think about what we want to do. If we're going to invest major money, and we would have to go through wetlands. I mean, I'm surprised that, you know, that I don't think that trail would be approved under current wetlands right now. So I think we need to go and look at that and see where we are. But I agree, we got to walk all of Ames in doing it, because I think that's the one that needs the most attention at this point.
Evan, if you could, if you're able to get to the Blue Trail from Whippoorwill, you know, wearing gaiters or whatever, it's the crossing I'm talking about is very close to there. So if you can get through there, that's one I would check out sooner than later, because I think it's relatively hazard the way it's kind of haphazard, just put together.
This is from Evergreen that are questionable. So I think if we started from Evergreen and walked.
Well, I was going to say it's probably well over a half mile, 2/3 of a mile in either direction from Evergreen, but it's pretty close if you can get through the wet area from Whippoorwill.
Yeah.
Once it gets warm enough and you can just wear a bathing suit and some reef walkers.
Yourself, dear.
I'm happy to go and take a look, but I also have some waders that I can use. But I don't want to
fly fishing waders.
I don't want to take a leaf out of a page out of Peter Cable's book and nearly drown myself.
I wish I'd had that episode on film. That was awesome. Peter Cable, bring your waders.
This is Gary. The crossing that Greg is talking about is a high hazard, high liability crossing.
Well, let's go look at them all. Let's get Peter Norris and let's send out a notice. Peter Cable, this is probably, if we do that many, is that a meeting we're doing then? If we're doing a trail walk to review maintenance?
Could be. Could be.
Okay, so I think we'd have to notice it, people. So that's
You have to call a special meeting in order to get everybody, you know, if you want, I mean, we could go out there with maybe 2 or 3 people and not have a meeting because we wouldn't have a quorum, but
there'd be 4 or 5. So maybe set the date. What do we have to do if we do a special meeting? Is it 48 hours, Peter Cable?
You are a parliamentarian, Peter Cable?
I'm sorry?
You are a parliamentarian. Amanda wants to know the notice for a special meeting.
I'm sorry, I missed.
If we do a trail walk, Peter Cable,
Yes.
and so we have to notice it because it'll be more than a quorum. Is it 48 hours for a special meeting, or that we call that you have to send a notice out that we're doing a trail walk to review maintenance on the Ames property, and then you would have to file it with Michelle. And is it 48 hours versus an agenda 7 days?
At least.
Okay, so 48 hours, let's say. What can you maybe confirm that, because we're going to set up and Evan's going to set up. You don't have to do it right now, but just send me a quick note sometime. Evan's going to contact Peter Norris and then send out maybe 1 date or 2 dates as an alternative, and we can get feedback. And then Peter can notice as a special meeting, we're going to meet, say, at Evergreen and walk the trails, bring waders and things like that. So I would, Evan, if you wouldn't mind, coordinate that, and we'll do it in the next 2 weeks.
sure.
Because I know my high school kids that help me are around, and maybe I could get. And I was thinking about using them for the new signpost, you know, over on library. So maybe we.
Well, you know, let's keep the initial walk to a
Yes, it's
minimum
just us
so
going
that
to the
we can
initial.
get something done. Otherwise, there's so much discussion that it gets confusing, and I think if just get 2 or 3 people to walk it and make a decision and come back to the commission with a recommendation.
Okay. And Evan, were you at the beginning of the meeting? Did you hear where the Fentons are applying to become members?
Oh, yeah, no, I think that's great.
Yeah, and so maybe they could come along if they'd be interested. I would extend that to them.
Yeah.
So I think that's good. I think
Thank you.
we've finally, hopefully finished with McCall. Our spaces that, and we can maintain it. And I think now's the opportunity to focus on some of the other open spaces that we have. And I think Ames is definitely needs some attention. Okay.
Okay, Whippoorwill Road parking.
Yeah, all the spaces, if people can hear me.
Hey, Peter.
Oh, okay, good.
Oh,
Did you catch our discussion on the bridges and everything at Ames, Peter? Well, he's got a spinning wheel.
Gary, maybe, Greg, maybe you can bring him up to date
Okay.
just in case. Whippoorwill Road parking, that kind of went with the Ames. And I think when
Right.
we assess all of that, we'll deal with that. I just want to point out that the parking lot for McCulloch is also the same parking lot for Ames. We're sharing that space. And we're sharing that space on land that John Pfeiffer has graciously let us use. And that may not always be the case. So we need to be aware of that. I've had, I asked Tim at Ned's request to have the police go by and monitor if people are leaving trash and everything. We cleaned it up a little, but he kind of wants it left the way it is. We're respecting his wishes, and we posted signs that say private property, and hopefully that will keep people off of it. But that does get a lot of traffic, and I have a few boards in the muck there, and Wayne's going to finish putting flat rocks in on that yellow trail. But, so we have to be sensitive. That is not our parking lot. It's a gift. So.
Okay, I think we covered the Beavers Bridge or close it.
Mm-hmm. I think so too, Bill.
So we're into new business.
Okay.
Dog waste bag disposal.
When Greg Tomo wrote the announcement for McCulloch opening on National Trails, it was a wonderful write-up. Thank you. Usual, you're 100% on top of it. But we mentioned at the end that we are now the stewards. First it was the McCulloch family, the Nature Conservancy had an easement. Now it's up to the town of Old Lyme to protect and preserve it. And we pointed out that there are no trash cans for a reason. Whatever you take in, you take out. We're not there to pick up after you. There's been talk about, more use of the trails, which is good, but also we've seen the side effect is people are not picking up after their animals. And so some people, open preserves have trash cans, some of them have dog waste cans, but then you wonder who's going to do it. Public Works will not do it. I'll tell you that right now. And I don't think any of other board members want to be on a statement to go empty trash cans. So that's my take on it. I'd love to have a little discussion on it.
I just was walking on Griswold Point and noticed that the Nature Conservancy had removed trash cans and now have a sign saying whatever you carry in, you carry out.
Yeah.
And that's on our rules, which are posted on every kiosk.
Yeah.
Well, luckily the dog waste doesn't happen often. It was only that one time that I noticed, but it was kind of disturbing. I mean, I'll mind picking that up, which I've done other things like a spare tire that we found out there and and other things. But, you know, I don't think it's a habit. I don't think it's constant. It does happen from time to time. So
I would add, Peter, that I'm not on Facebook, but my wife is, and I think there's a site, the People of Old Lyme or something of that nature, and your photo was posted on there. And there was a little bit of social policing, like, come on, people, if you're going to use it, pick up after yourself.
good thing.
You know, speaking of that, just to digress for a moment, Peter, Greg, we do have that Gmail account, olheights@gmail.com. Isn't that what it is, Peter Norris? And so I've asked Peter we did this last year, to put it out there. So when he's taking a walk to, you know, preview our trails, he could put it out, because there are people that would like to walk with somebody. And Peter knows a few people from these walks, but we ought to advertise that a little. I don't know whether Facebook might be an appropriate spot, but
I had thought about that, Amanda, and that's a good idea, you know, and the countervailing issue is the social distancing and how many people do you want in a group?
well, I think you just say
Oldlimeheights@gmail.com, you said?
it's olheights@gmail.com.
Oh, nice.
But I know that a friend of mine would like to go, and she's always telling me, she says, I want to go for a hike with you, but I can only go 1 mile. I can only do this. I can only says, I'm gone. So, but there are people that would like, and one or two, and then I think mention it that, you know, because of the virus, we have to practice social distance, bring a mask with you just in case. And see, I don't think we're going to get flocks of people.
Would it be possible to add to the QR code when they get the map, to also get a little notice about if you're walking your dog, please pick up after your dog and carry it home?
Well, when you put the QR, when you put your camera on the QR code, it brings up our page with the 5 or 6, however many we have, open spaces. And then you click on that and it's a map.
Yeah, there's not much real estate on those maps, Evan, but, you know, I can look if there's a spot where we can put a line or something to that nature, because it would have to be really kind of on the map.
Yeah,
that would be a Lisa thing. You know, remember Lisa Nikolai, who does our trail maps?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you know, it's almost like, and you're always telling me, don't pretty up the woods, Amanda, leave the trees where they are. I'm not sure I want all those. It's almost like an advertisement on a beautiful map. We've got our trails. Maybe we need to do a little more on our webpage, and maybe something on our kiosk. But I really hate to. The maps are so beautiful by themselves. And that QR, they've got a lot of information on there about the mileage, the contours, you know, things like that.
I mean, it's great. I just think if you can put a map on your phone, why can't you put a couple of bullet points with some rules?
Well, but when you get that map and you start the trail, kiosk station is right there. What good does a map do you if you're not going to walk the trail? So once you go to the trailhead, you've got all those rules and regs.
I would, my own inclination would be that Peter would know certainly more than I how widespread an issue it is. But if it's an occasional here or there, just kind of let it slide. The whole issue of, for example, of dogs on trails is a big area that it seems like land trusts around Connecticut are dealing with. We took a walk a couple of weeks ago in Canton with a member of the Canton Land Trust, and they're having issues with people with dogs loose because they have they cleared a large field to try to create a habitat for, is it the eastern cottontails rabbits?
Yeah.
And people are bringing their dogs in and they're running loose and they're going after the rabbits. So I mean, it's an issue. And then obviously we had the issue with dogs and coyotes on Champlain. So
yeah,
maybe kind of treat it on an ad hoc basis.
Well, There was dog waste on 2 trails on McCulloch, and I did pick up some trash. Very little, but you know, I always try and walk with a plastic bag. I think it's inevitable, but if it gets out of hand, I think we may have to do something like Evan says, put it on there.
Yeah.
It's really sad that people.
Let's keep an eye on it.
I know the Land Trust has trash cans at Watch Rock that they have to take out to the street once a week. And when Jim Mildren was down there working on their gates and their fences and stuff, he'd see people that would bring their trash and just put it in there.
That's a problem.
I think people, you know, there's always a few that spoil it for everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought through this question of putting trash cans, even though that's not our policy, and it becomes sort of open-ended. I mean, what do you do? Who collects the trash from the trash can, and where is it taken?
Well, we've all seen it on the highway where it's overflowing, and then what do you do?
Exactly.
Yeah, right. It just encourages people bringing more stuff.
Yes.
Well, why don't we monitor and see how it goes, and then I don't know. Do you think we're walking a trail? Should we say, if someone with a dog, say something like, "Thanks for walking the trail. We hope you know, pick up any waste from your dog," or should we just let it go? I don't know if I want to confront people.
I think we should let it go and monitor it.
At least get it off the trail.
But yeah, but you got to go find a stick or something to.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing we can do as we send out messages and as we periodically have done is just keep stressing it every time. Just put something in there each time.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Good point. All right, can we move along to Amtrak Connecticut River Railroad Bridge?
Okay, so Stephen Ross has been kind enough to include me in a lot of his emails for harbor management and things like that. And so the Amtrak Bridge project came up, and I did send him an email telling him that we had the Eklund Pond down there, which was behind the deep, and we had a property on Ferry Road, which connected to it. We need access to monitor and for Phragmite removal, and any notice of any use of the property needs to come to open space, not to the town of Old Lyme, where it'll get lost, because we monitor the open space. And he said at this point there was no plans to use anything, and it's well marked where Amtrak will be putting their equipment and things, but he will keep us advised. So I thought just that we went on record for that, and that we do need access to it, so don't block it.
I think all the construction's going to be south of the present bridge and coming in from 156 to the construction site.
Yes, I mean that's the only way they can come in. I think he was going to stress some access by water barges or something, but as long as we're of record and we just monitor the situation, I think. See,
okay.
Bringing equipment or where they're parking or things like that.
Okay, let's discuss bicycles on the trails.
Okay, well, our literature, if you read our literature, it says, you know, hiking, walking, bicycling, and there is definitely access of bicycles. They are actively used on our trails. When George, James, and I were walking, ran into a friend. Well, I didn't run into him, but I saw him, and he's on a bike, and he's talking about the trails and how beautiful they were, and he likes our stones, our flat stones, and all this. So there's more bicycle activity. I think we've always kind of been, well, are we embracing the bicycles, or are we just ignoring some people, not us, but other groups on their trails put down trees to stop bicycles? I know that Lime Land Trust is actively, Evan, what's her name up there? Sue Cope is a bicyclist, and she says she's very good. So I just think we gotta kind of figure out where we stand on it. Are we?
The Lime Land Trust has the Tour de Lime, which didn't happen this year, but it has, and they have a mountain bike segment of that tour, which actually has more participants than any of the other segments in the Tour de Lime. I mean, there were over 100 mountain bikers in the last, but they're in a sense encouraging mountain biking on their trails because it's benefiting them through the Tour de Lime. But they also have, there's a group, and I can find out from Matt Griswold. Young Matt Griswold is a big mountain biker, and also Brian Greenhoe, who I think lives in town. And they have a group of people, and they do active maintenance. If there's a tour or a race or something, they go back and they go through and cut some limbs and so forth. But they also make sure that the trail's in good shape after the use. So I think we can partner with some of these. It's sort of like a snowmobile group, and the snowmobile issue in the 1980s was horrible in Vermont and northern Maine and so forth. But it got to the point where the snowmobilers got together and said, "Listen, guys, we really need to buck up and start behaving properly." And so I think getting some monitors on the mountain bike group would help.
Well, I think they would also, like our crossings where people are laying boards, all the people I talk to on bicycles says, that's not us. So I don't know, but when I Google mountain biking or bicycling in southeastern Connecticut, it comes up Champlain South. And I think the man up at the bike shop up in Laysville area has a group that go out. So I'm just thinking maybe it would be someone to reach out to. And it says, well, we know you use our trails, and you don't like it when people put wood there. So why don't you work with us to make a trail that's acceptable to both? But we need help in creating those. If it's on Ames or if it's on that, the one I'm thinking of is on McCullough, the yellow trail the other day.
Amanda, when we met with Sue Cope a while ago, maybe a few years ago, I recall her saying, like much as Evan just related, that how they had a complementary association with the mountain bikers and how helpful they were on trail maintenance before and after the tour. And she may know of some contacts. And I don't think it's just, when I hiked on Ames last weekend, someone had just come in and out of Evergreen with a mountain bike, and you could tell it was fairly recent because there were chunks of mud from the threads that were on Evergreen where they had come out of the trail that were fresh, wet mud.
Oh, they are. Hey, Evan, do you think Matt would be interested in helping us?
Well, I can ask him, and if he individually can't do it, he probably knows the people who could. And I know Brian Greenhoe has been. I've seen him on trails up in Lyme. In the state, they ride the state forest a lot.
Well, I was just thinking, Matt. I've talked to Matt once or twice about it myself, and I know they're busier than anything right now. But I'm just thinking he is an old Lyme resident.
Yeah.
And it would be nice, and we don't need so much all the time. We just need someone to kind of help us monitor it and make suggestions, and maybe he can get together a group of people that we could work with on something like that, which would be
Yeah, yeah. I'll next time I see him, I'll collar him and talk to him about it.
okay. So you're going to work with Evan and Matt.
Can I ask a quick question, Amanda? Fred and Andrea, I saw Andrea may have gotten a phone call. I don't want to put you guys on the spot, but do you notice with your walks and so forth on the land trust trails if there's much bike activity there? And in a general question, I'm curious about what their policy and attitude is towards bikes on their trails.
I see some treads, but really no damage. I mean, I have to say that I bike on them occasionally. I'm not a big biker, but I think it's something that should be encouraged. There's not so many of them, and the damage is mild, I think. We should, be happy with bikers using the trails and getting out there, and especially if they're going to help us maintain the trails. I think, but there are some, trails that the bikers make off the trail for their excitement. Yes, off cliffs and things. But I think on the Evergreen Trail, I've seen some of that. But in general, I think they're to be encouraged.
Peter Rooney is one of the land Upper 3 Mile River Preserve, and we know how. I mean, that is very rough topography up there. He's carrying flat stones up there and putting them in so that when they cross the pass, they can be on flat stones. I know and Evan, you were part of this. They're doing a new bridge up there, and it was just through wetlands. I see where it got approved.
Yes, and they've got 2 crossings that they're building bridges, and I'm not sure who's building them, but yes, they're, and because I offered to provide some posts for their crossings as well.
I'd like to see their design, and I asked Andrea when we talked about coming on the board, because she has a lot of contacts with the kids. She's a daughter in the high school. Her kids went to school here. Both Andrea and Fred are in the community, and maybe help us get some volunteers lined up, Boy Scouts backs. So if we did some of these things, we would have a pool of people to help us.
Yep.
Might be be very nice.
Do that.
So when we take these projects on, we'll have a group that we can call and say, will you work with us on a project? Because the bridge buildings they're doing are, I mean, I think the one they have up there now wasn't that a Boy Scout project?
Yes.
Yeah. But I think that would be good. Any other discussion on the bicycles? So Evan, you'll work on Matt, and we'll.
Yeah, I'll contact Matt and find out whether there's a established group that I know there was for helping the Limeland Trust on their tour, but whether it's an ongoing group, I'll find out.
Okay, and I'll check with a couple of people I know that are doing bicycles and see what feedback they can give me, and maybe I'll go up, take another member, and go up and talk to the person who owns that bicycle shop.
Oh yeah, up at Graybill's.
I'll see what he has.
His name is
Steve Morrissey.
Steve Morrissey.
Do you know him?
We've had dealings with him from when he used to be in Niantic, and since he's moved here.
Okay, well, maybe we'll go up and talk to him and see, introduce ourselves and tell him we understand there's more. And maybe they've got guidelines, just
sure.
the old meet and greet and keep smiling. It's
I'm going.
find out, I think it's all, we now that they're motorized bicycles, I don't want to see those on our trails. It's only pedal bicycles.
Stuart, I've only seen isolated bikers, single men and two kids. Granted, out there all the time, but sure there's large group at one time going out all at once, but I could be wrong.
What trail did you see him on?
Oh, well, definitely Ames. But I see tracks throughout the trails. Obviously, they're more noticeable when they go through some muddy areas, but I don't think they're doing any damage that I can see.
Well, I will say that you haven't walked McCulloch, and McCulloch has 3 trails that they're beautiful wide roads, and they're just perfect. And I know they're riding McCulloch because I've seen them. So, but I just think we need to discuss it and talk about our approach to it. It's good that we figure out what our policies are so that we can promote them and be more inclusive.
I know that the land trust in Mystic, I'm spacing on the name at the moment, Avalonia Land Trust, their director, and they represent 8 towns, and their director is active in promoting recreational biking and other activities on their trails, and she was going to be one of the speakers at the Connecticut Conservation Land
CLCC.
Thank you. Right. Meeting, talking about sharing the resources and the properties with biking. So I know that both websites would have some information on like positions on that.
Yeah. I don't think I want to advertise it so much, but I just want to make sure that we say, oh, you're here. I know talking that conversation a while back with Steiger, head of Deep, he said that he's a big bicycle enthusiast in Bluff Point and Columbia Lake and things like that. And I think that more people working from home and wanting to get out out and do more activities, certainly, as we've seen it, increase the use of our trails.
But our trails are designed differently. Like, for example, my wife and I walked that old trail, river, the airline out in Coventry, and the state maintains that, and it's very wide, and there's plenty of room, and there's an awful lot of bikes on it. Probably equal bikes to people walking, but it's designed for it. Where a lot of our trails really aren't. I mean, the old Wood Trail or Ball, or even the Blue Trail on Ames in the back there, it's not really designed for large use of bikes. That's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, that's another point to bring up is if we decide to, enthusiastically embrace bike use, maybe we need to say there are a few trails that we have concerns on and would appreciate not biking. So, and maybe we need to be a little more vigilant and say, please do not ride a bike. I don't know. It's just a thought because some of our trails are so narrow that the bike meets a pedestrian with a dog. It's not going to be pretty.
Right, but I think that's probably the challenge for the mountain bikers. The more rugged it is, the more effort and workout they're going to get.
Well, that's
adrenaline junkies.
Hundreds had to pull somebody out of Champlain South, and they cut down trees and everything to get them out. So, challenge, yes, but injuries. Well, just something to think about when you're walking and think,
Okay.
good thing to approach, things like that. Look at it from all points of view. sure most of us have been parents. We've looked at things from all points of view. Some points of view we don't appreciate. So, what do you think, Bill?
Okay, shall we go on to, we should
This
go
is
on to
Gary.
the old Lyme.
I'm sorry.
Gary, just one thing you might want to consider on the bikes, so you might want to read the conservation easement before you do anything.
I didn't quite understand your comment.
You want to read the conservation easement before you do anything with the bikes
Oh, but on McCulloch, you mean?
on every different one we have.
Well,
I think McCulloch is the only one with an easement on it.
right. So it wouldn't apply to the other open spaces and conservation easements on private property. That's something entirely different. We're talking only about our open space properties.
But McCulloch will be subject to the easement, whether we own it or a private or the McCulloch family owned it.
But
So
that's the only
Is
property.
there any language in the easement regarding particular types of public activity?
That's my point. Just check, read that before we do anything against the bikes.
or for the bikes. If the easement says no bikes, then McCulloch has no bikes.
I don't think, I think it's very open-ended because we did, Michelle, if she's still here, she sent me an email, says, I don't quite understand this. This is the Connecticut Valley Driving Company or Club, and wanted to know if we could bring horses and trailers on McCulloch. And I said, we did not buy the Morgan farm. We own a portion of it, and no horses are not, or trailers are not allowed on our property. I will check on bicycles. I think it's pretty general, and if it doesn't say they're included.
Well, there's one section in the easement, and I never didn't memorize it, but you go to that section about what is restricted and what is prevented, and that's maybe 2 pages of the easement. But Gary, that's a good point.
So we'll check McCulloch. Thank you for that. And that would be the only one it would apply to, but I don't know how we'd stop it. Anyway, I'm not amending it again. Oh my God.
Okay, we have 15 minutes more left. So let's go to where does Old Lyme Open Space Commission go from here?
To the woods.
It seems to me, yeah, exactly. I got that t-shirt. Bill and I were discussing the other day. We've been co-chairs for 2.5 years, and we came in after the passing of Diana, and I kind of talked about what we've done. We created the Diana Atwood Johnson Trail. After that, it's exactly 2 years we got into McCulloch, and it's 2 years from the time that started it till we finished it and opened it to the public. I think we've reached out. We've made people aware that there are 2 land organizations in this town, the Old Lyme Land Trust and the Space Commission. We've partnered with the Land Trust on Take a Hike. We've encouraged more people to go out. We've reached across our town network to talk to the other commissions, to be friends with them, to help them. But when push came to shove, they modified our conservation easement and we had to do a cease and desist. We said no. They all backed down, and we were right. We've strengthened our policies to protect and preserve. We stated we don't want chemicals. We are protecting beaver ponds, and I notice in our meetings there's more dialogue. There's more willingness to share, to compromise, to be involved. We've reached out. We've gotten more volunteers. We're getting some new members on our board. So I think we've had a busy 2.5 years. And so just thinking, okay, we've done all that. We conservation easements to do. Greg, and he sent to you, we're doing the open space plan. We're updating that. We certainly do a lot of notices out to people, encourage them, talking about, McCulloch opening. But just thinking aloud and thinking that the board ought to think, what direction are we going in now? Do we look for more properties? We've approached some landowners. I don't know. Where do we go from now? That was kind of my question.
I think this is Evan, and I think one change that we ought to be discussing is, if we get back into a situation where there are subdivisions, Great Oak comes to mind. I'm concerned that about the stewardship issue of taking small parcels of land in subdivisions, as we have for the last, the town has taken them on where there has been no homeowners association, and the engineers and the surveyors and the owners of the subdivision, the developers saying, oh, we'll just give this little parcel to the town and that'll be our open space. And I think we really ought to have a policy of not taking those parcels, and but I think that's a discussion we ought to have.
Well, I did get an email from I can't remember if it's Kim Groves or Kim Barrows, and the planning board is starting to do the they have to update every 10 years the plan of conservation development. So they wanted to information from us, and someone was on our website, and I said we would like to comment, but I said we're not going to comment now. We need time to kind of get a statement together, and I certainly would want it to reflect that McCulloch, the property that's been on our open space list since we were created in '97. I like the idea when Great Oaks came, they had a workshop, which was very helpful. Bill and I went, and that's when I had been talking to the developer and said that Joseph parcel, which is next to McCulloch, which he had in his was very beneficial. I think workshops to encourage, we can look at the property and see where we connect it to others. There's not that much land around, but I agree with you. And I think 15%, but it has to be 15%, a certain portion of it, at least 10% has to be usable. And look, and I would rather see these conservation easements that we have to maintain, and the homeowners don't care for us, and it just creates animosity. Like we had someone at one of our board meetings that said, well, I don't want people walking behind my house, and I said, well, we already have the right to put hiking trails on the conservation easement. So I think we have some educational purposes to do, but the benefit of open space, it increases the value of your property, and to do a trail. I also think that you and I have talked a lot about this, is because you have a piece of land doesn't mean you have to put a trail on it. There's wilderness for wilderness sake, and we need to protect the habitat and the animal corridors and things. And so if we acquire open space, we shouldn't always be looking to have trails on it, because we have to have more trails. I think we need to really consider that protect and preserve part of it.
I'd like to, can I make a couple comments, Amanda?
Go right ahead.
As far as where we go from here, I sent each of you kind of a new draft of the open space plan, and towards the end of it, there are a series of goals that I cobbled together, and that's kind of my view of the goals, but it really should be a group acceptance of mutually agreed upon goals. So I would encourage you all to look at that and comment on it. And you had, I stepped away briefly. You missed what you said about the Kims talking about the plan. Are they working on the POCD, Amanda?
They are. They just preliminary work, and they wanted to know how many. And I said, go to our website. I can't quote it off.
In the past, in the 2010 plan, basically they took stuff from our plans. I'm not sure what process we should, what the procedure should be going forward with the open space plan in terms of adopting or whatever. But I would think perhaps it might be helpful for people from this commission to meet with the planning commission. And really for two purposes. Number one, for the POCD and incorporating maybe segments from the open space plan into that, but also, as Evan was saying, in terms of open space allocations within subdivisions, that's really their purview. And maybe we can meet with them and we're an advisory role. You could express your concerns, Evan, or whatever, but that's, that's a discussion I think they need to be part of.
Yeah.
Yes.
Point. Yeah.
I'd like to make one comment on
Greg.
Greg's report. It was a prodigious job of work. I'm amazed at how much you were able to accomplish during this down period we've had. It was an incredible amount of work. Very, very good.
Yeah,
I
tremendous.
agree.
And
I
well
agree.
presented too, Greg.
Thank you.
Yep, did a great job, Greg.
Awesome.
I guess what I would look for all of you is where do we go from here with that?
I've got one question. I want to pose it more as a question. With the recent demonstrations for peace and inclusion and justice, having to do with colored people and less fortunate people, is that something that we should turn our attention to as open space, as an open space commission in a wealthy white town? I mean, is that of consideration for the future? Should we have, let me give you an example of a program that I was just thinking about. We could get kids from, let's say, New London, who there's no open space in New London, and bring them by the 9-town transit thing, which operates during the week. During the summer, bring some kids into Champlain North, provide them with snacks and bug spray and all that stuff, and take them on a trail hike and deliver them back in a couple of hours. And they go back and take them back to New London, and in fact escort them back to New London that was a kind of what if. Is that something that we ought to be considering now because it's of
Audubon does a lot of that. I think by having our open space and having it safe, and maybe putting some verbiage out there that says to groups, we have these open space. We encourage people, especially with the meadow, Brooks Meadow on McCulloch. And if we get that composting toilet, because a lot of these places, if you don't have public facilities, they cannot do it. That's why the Lyme Art Association couldn't do their plein air painting. So
I would make one specific comment in response to that, Peter. I looked at a lot of towns' plans, and I looked at a lot of literature around the country, and the one issue that's kind of the nexus between open space and issues of some demographic diversity is whether open space and zoning and so forth is used on an exclusionary basis or not. And I made a point of putting in the plan that open space and economic development, which would provide things like housing for different strata of population, they're not contradictory. They go hand in hand. And the town, I would hope, would not look at open space as a means to exclude other types of development or to forestall economic development. And in fact, we have the affordable housing component to the McCullough purchase.
Yes. Yes.
And I have to say, when I look for property, when I negotiate with, and all of these other things that go with it, I'm always looking for affordable housing lots. So that's been part of my focus. So, and I'm looking at another piece of property now, which has the potential for having some affordable housing. So it's not
Amanda
all-
and Bill, I've got to go. So thank you very much, and I'll follow up on the things that I'm doing.
Okay, thank you.
Take care.
Thanks, Evan.
I think one of the things that I would like to see us consider, because as you know, I'm a title searcher. I work for other towns, like municipalities that require open space and things, and then I've seen properties like in Groton, the Merritt parcel where I used to cross country ski, be taken over for a school. I want to take open space properties and protect them with a conservation easement, so they will be open space properties in perpetuity. And I know the Bartholomew family that gave our first property to us had that intent, but there was never anything put on that property. And I spoke to Rich Cody about it briefly, our attorney, and he says, oh my gosh, it's a lot of money to draft a document like that. And so I've looked at other towns and I make copies of their documents. But I think that's something that we should consider, is that this property, the title is taken, and we create an open space. But we really, if they decided that the town needed a new school or something, they could take that open space. A conservation easement on the properties would give us another layer of protection. So I would like to see that done, retroactively fit, so that these properties would be protected.
What would be involved in that?
You would have to you'd have to draft a document. You'd have to, when you acquire a piece of property for open space, it becomes an 8-24 proposal. So you go to the selectmen, Board of Finance, a number of people, conservation, it gets approved, you take it to town meeting and it gets approved, and then that's there. So it would be a process, but it's not daunting. It's something, it's just time consuming. Like we modified the conservation easement. It's a lot of steps to do it, but the ultimate goal is we're modifying the conservation easement for 3 parks. But there is always the site that says number one thing is this property is protected and preserved. So that's why the state attorney general has to get involved, because they are in charge of it. So there's a lot of layers to get. So if somebody wanted to take away that protection, they would have to go through all those layers. A lot of oversight. So and we are a public commission versus a land trust who is private and has a different type of protection.
Well, I talked with you about that, Amanda, and that's explicitly a goal in the plan.
Oh, good. Oh, good. So as I said, I haven't had a time. It's been a little crazy week for me. That is something that I think we ought to do. And to be future when we acquire property, document should be recorded saying there's a conservation easement on this property that we just purchased. So going forward, it would be part of the process. That's what I would like to see.
Oh, okay, everybody, it's 25 of 11, so Amanda, what do you think we should close down?
I think so, but I would hope that, is there any public comment, any additional public comment? I hope, you know, in this meeting, we covered a lot of things that, but we put out some abstract things there. And I'd love to get emails back and thoughts and continue it, and then maybe have a discussion on it at our next meeting in July. And then we don't have a meeting in August, so that's my only thought. So any other comments, thoughts from anybody else? Then do we have a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Okay, well, okay.
Second.
Who seconded?
I did.
Oh, okay. Okay, Bill, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So adjourned at 10:35.
Right.
You all for attending. Maybe our next one will be a real meeting.
That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be great.
I think if we did it, we would probably go to the meeting room on the first floor with that big long table.
Yeah, that's what would the best thing to do.
More, you know.
Sounds good. Hopefully next time Comcast will be better if we have to go that route.
Okay,
Sorry about
guys.
that.
So we'll all have to be fast down.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Have a good.
Okay,
Kids will be in school.